the most valuable thing I can have is clarity. And it goes through conflict, it goes through knowing the numbers, it goes through like knowing exactly where you are and facing the reality you live in. And that's something that's very hard for me because I'm a dreamer, you know.
Hello, wonderful humans, and welcome to episode number 6 of the Meaningful Conversations podcast. I'm so happy that you're here because today we have a very important topic to discuss, and that is limiting beliefs. Admit it, you have some. I definitely do. And our guest today also does, but she has a very interesting approach to them. So I can't wait to share our discussion with you. But for now, let me introduce her to you. Aida is a serial Moroccan entrepreneur who is very passionate about supporting her country. So after studying in Canada, she decided to go back to Morocco and to make an impact in a vital sector: handicrafts. MyTindy.com was born in 2019 to empower handcrafters in Morocco to connect and sell to an international audience with a vision to expand to the entire MENA region. It supports them in their digital transition and allows them to promote their business internationally. MyTindy supports them by providing training and taking care of the logistics for their vendors. The marketplace has already onboarded more than 250 artisans and have sold products in over 35 countries. That's an incredible global reach. The current pandemic has hit the handicraft sector hard as artisans rely on tourism and physical selling to generate sales. MyTindy has partnered with the Ministry of Tourism and Handicrafts in Morocco to onboard more artisans and alleviate their hardship by giving them a solution to generate revenue online. Ida has an extensive entrepreneurial experience and a lot of wisdom to share with us. I can't wait to jump into that discussion, so let's do just that. Hi, Aida, how are you doing?
Hi, Masha. I'm good. And you? How are you doing?
Doing well and very excited to talk to you, to interview you about your entrepreneurial journey. And I believe you just won another startup competition. Congratulations!
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's such an honor to be able to talk with you through your podcast today. I'm very happy to be here.
Likewise. Thank you so much for taking your time and for sharing uh, all of your insights and your experiences. These kinds of stories help everybody with their own journeys, and it's so you've done so much. I just can't wait to dig in into our conversation, to like the meat of everything. Let's start with how we met. So we met on LinkedIn. I saw someone who's in my network commenting on your post, and the post really hit me deep. It basically, to
Mhm.
summarize, was all about, as in like it touched me, it felt really relevant to me. It basically said, don't be the one who says no to you, let others say no to you instead, which is something that you got from TikTok, from what I believe,
Yeah,
right, based on that
exactly.
LinkedIn post. Take us back to the time when you saw that TikTok post. What were you doing, and how did that make you feel? And what does that phrase mean to you?
So that was actually very interesting. I was road tripping in Europe because I was in France and then I had to go to Spain. And we and my husband we decided to go it like by car. And I had discovered TikTok maybe 2 months ago, and I was at this point when I was extremely addicted to TikTok. Like scrolling through it whenever like I had the chance. And you know the algorithm of TikTok is so cool because when you understand what you like, it keeps on giving it to you. So my feed was full of like manifesting, business tips, and empowerment. And I was like just scrolling and like feeling inspired. And then I was this person, I don't remember her name, but she was like, listen, what I'm going to tell you allowed me to close a book deal of like over $1 million. And it's just so simple. And I was like, why? What's that? And she was like, don't be the one to say no to yourself. And she started like explaining like since she started like taking chances and not to be the one like just asking people like whenever like she felt like I want a book deal, okay, let's ask someone who, if he says no it's okay, if he doesn't say no, like if he says yes that's even better, but I'm not going to be the one like shutting down my idea. And that's what happened. And she said like since the moment she said started just asking, like being blunt and being like okay, like I'm going to do it, like I'm going to be asking no matter like and like willing to like suffer the rejection of it, everything changed. It blew my mind because I was often the one that was like saying no to myself, like I would be like, no, I'm not gonna ask her, I'm sure she will say no, or like, no, I don't think it's worth it. And it literally like opened the door for me. And I was like, Ida, you've been saying no to yourself for your whole life. And it's crazy because I take it, my sister, she's completely different personality. And whenever I would say her, like, no, let's not ask her, she was like, no, ask her. Like, you never know. And it clicked. I was like, she understood this before I did. And that's crazy to think about it.
It really is. I had goosebumps as you were talking about this because it's so true. A lot of us say no to ourselves much more often, and we shut down our ambitions, our ideas before we can even voice them to everybody else. So you mentioned that there have been times where you said no to yourself. What are some examples of those times where you should have let others say no to you instead? And what would you do differently nowadays?
I mean, there's so many examples, like saying no to yourself is such an easy thing to do. It's the opposite that is kind of like counterintuitive. Like a very simple example is going to a restaurant, I don't know, and saying like, yeah, I would like to know if we can switch like potatoes for pasta, will you ask it? Like that's very dumb, like the very dumb example, but sometimes I would go there and not even ask, and I would be the one like holding the burden of eating potatoes instead of pasta, but because I didn't want to burden the other person. And that's not a good way to think about it. First of all, there's something is that I learned this also, is that if you want people to like you, ask them to do something for you, right? I don't know how this works, but it works. So if you're asking small favors to people, it actually is in your favor. So like it's one of the main argument why you shouldn't say no to yourself. And I mean, in business, I used to do it all the time. Like, no, let's not try this ad. I don't think it's gonna work. Or no, let's not contact this person. I'm sure she's not gonna answer. No, do it. You have two ways of thinking about it. The first one is like, you're going to accept the rejection no matter what. And the second is the law of probabilities. The more you do something, the higher chances you have of succeeding at it. So if you don't say no to yourself and you ask 100%, you're going to have way more chances than if you ask one. And the moment you ask the first one, you face the first rejection. I think it gets easier. And if you're ready to face the rejection, and don't go with defeat in mind, but be ready to face it if it happens. And I think when you go this way, there's literally nothing to lose.
Absolutely. And I feel like that also applies to people who are applying for jobs. It's all a
Yeah.
game of numbers, it's all statistics. Like the probability of you getting rejected might be the same, but the more you do it, the more yeses you will end up hearing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that brings us to the topic of limiting beliefs. What limiting beliefs have you had over the years, and how have you dealt with them?
Oof, that's a big subject. I've had so many limiting beliefs. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm facing limiting beliefs every day because I feel that my entrepreneurship journey is also a journey toward like breaking all these limiting beliefs. I think that it's so out of your comfort zone that like my first belief is that my startup or my company will never be as successful if I'm not aligned with it and if I'm not someone who takes care of myself. And that's maybe a limiting beliefs, but that's also something that makes me understand that I'm important, because when you have a startup, so many times I'm the second priority in my list. The first one is going to be my startup, and that's not good because you burn out. You have to take care of yourself. It has to be sustainable. I used to burn out twice a month. It was not sustainable, right? But the limiting beliefs I have and I'm fighting for are that for like the first one I would say is that making money requires hustle, and that's a big belief that I'm trying to remove from myself. You don't have to suffer to make money. Money can be so abundant and be with, like, if you take it from the standpoint that money is energy, you just have to attract the energy. And this is my belief. I know that it's super hard to grasp, and I'm also trying to grasp it, but I feel that gratitude is helping me a lot, like grasping this like abundance mindset. But the first one I really struggled with was like I was convinced in my core that you have to hustle to make it, and nothing comes easy. And I think that was such a big mistake, because I was always looking for ways, like whenever something would happen that was easy, it was not worth it for me, no matter how big the
Mhm.
opportunity was. And that was something that was very bad, because it didn't allow me to experience gratefulness and be grateful for all the things that were coming my way. And I think that's something that's very bad. It was a very bad cycle. I'm trying to break through it, but it comes to, like learning to celebrating even the small wins, because I feel that, like for myself personally, I know that I'm always dwelling on the bad thing, but I'm never celebrating the good things, and I'm really actively learning to like celebrate the good things that are happening.
Couldn't relate more to that. Honestly, just signed the biggest deal of my life, and it was very
Congratulations.
easy. Thank you. But it was very easy, and I was like, I didn't celebrate it to the extent that I should have, just because it was easy. And it
Yeah.
stems from the belief, the limiting belief that like money should be difficult, which is, it sucks that that's what we think, right? It
I
sucks
know.
that that's what we're conditioned to. And as you were talking about, putting yourself first, it also made me think of putting yourself first when it comes to not just being a startup owner, but a career owner. Anyone,
Yeah.
right? Like you can't dedicate yourself fully, even if you might not be an entrepreneur, you might not be trying to create this baby and, support other people through it, but like your career will not be getting the same effects if you are burnt out, if you're not putting yourself first, if you are not aligned with it, and all those things. So very interesting, and thank you for sharing. Limiting beliefs are sometimes hard. By sometimes I mean they're always hard, and it's hard to talk about them publicly. But your journey is very interesting. It's awesome. You've been a serial entrepreneur from a very young age, and you come from an entrepreneurial family. Could you
Yeah.
please tell us more about your path and that upbringing? And also, how did that exposure to entrepreneurship from an early age has shaped your mindset?
Sure. So yes, I lived in an entrepreneurial family, and I think that has been the greatest thing that has shaped my path to entrepreneurship for many reasons. Like I was seeing, for example, my dad working all the time, but being able to take us on vacation and work from wherever he was. Like it was, yes, there's a lot of work, but the successes are amazing, and the benefits are like, like you have no one to talk to do something. Like you're accountable to yourself, and you built a business. And so if your family needs to go on a holiday, well, you're going to go on a holiday with them. You don't need to ask something. I don't know. I've always dreamt of building things, creating things on my own, being the one who made something. And that's, I think, something that really led me through entrepreneurship. I can always remember when I was like very young, like I think I was 7 or 8. We were in Morocco, and my grandparents have a pool, and there were always small bugs and bees that would like drown. And I would spend all day like rescuing them, and being convinced that the Nobel Prize for Peace would call me because I rescued the bugs. So that's something that when I remember, I was like, wow, like it's very telling, like you were already looking to make an impact, and be recognized for your impact. And I was like, yes, like yeah, that's true. First I started buying and selling and stuff online in school, like very like just like learning, loving it. And then I was always like trying to make a good deal. I lived in Canada. It was like the best place for me for to make good deals. I mean, I was like always actively looking for deals and way to like optimize money. And not because I didn't want to spend, but because something that I really enjoyed doing. I think that I enjoyed playing with the system a lot. And in Canada, it was amazing because it was a country where like the customer was really like put forward and being taken care of. And I started also flipping furniture, selling furniture, buying low, selling high, all the things during my university. And then because I was in McGill University, and basically you only have 8 to 12 hours of classes a week, so I had so much free time. and I started doing freelance, like creating websites for people, just like looking for it. Like school bored me to death, honestly. Like I didn't have good grades at McGill University, even though like I got into a great school for my grades. I didn't have good grades because I think that I like it didn't interest me that much. I was seeing all these people working 12 hours a day to get an A, and it didn't make sense to me. I was like, I'd rather learn on the go, So I did internship, freelance job. Every time my friend would want to sell furniture, they'd call me like, Ida, please, can you help us? Because I know you get a great deal on furniture. Yeah. So that's what I did. Then I started like e-commerce. So I started like, I think 2013 was the born of like Shopify, e-commerce, everything. We started drop shipping hard, very like intensive drop shipping. We made a lot of money in drop shipping. It was an entrepreneurship club in Canada that I was part of. Everyone was on their computer making money but not having a life. We were like this and just like selling, advertising, finding products, selling them. And I burnt out because I was working also full time. So I would wake up at 4 a.m., work on my company, and then from 9 to 6 work at the digital marketing agency, and then go back to from like 6 p.m. to midnight. I was just working on the on my startup. And I burnt out and I stopped everything. And this is when I understood the power of delegation. I understood that this startup could have been something great if I had learned to delegate, but I wanted to do everything on my own, including fulfilling order, which had no added value for anyone. Like it was something that I could have had a virtual assistant in Asia do it and be paid like, I don't know, like $10, $12 an hour. And this would have made my startup grow because I wouldn't be doing it. And that's the main thing I learned from all this experience was that I need to learn to delegate. And then I decided to go back to Morocco because I grew tired of buying and selling without making any impact. I had a class that really marked me in school that was social entrepreneurship. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to be able to create an impact. This is what's going to make me wake up in the morning, not money, because I've made money and didn't want to wake up in the morning. And so I decided to go back to Morocco. And I was like, I will find something. I started looking around, finding ways to do it, and then I stumbled upon the idea that I needed to help the crafts sector in Morocco digitize itself because I was not I'm a Moroccan, but I don't know Morocco a lot. I'm not an insider. And I arrived in Morocco and I wanted to buy things that made sense that were impacting my country. So I wanted to buy like made in Morocco items. And aside from going to the souk, which was a hassle in itself, there was no way for me to buy online. And there was no way for me to find small brands, designer, people that were like building, upgrading, modernizing the craft industry in Morocco. And I decided that it was time for me and Shakib, which is now my husband, to together build a marketplace where anyone would be able to shop Moroccan goods. And it's been 2 years now, and our goal is we started with Morocco, and our goal is really to become the marketplace for the whole MENA region. Like it's like the Etsy, but for the MENA region, because Etsy is not very present there. And I think it has to do with the fact that the literacy rate is so high. And so it's way harder to onboard people. Like when you onboard the maker in the US, you assume that he knows how to read and write, but in Morocco sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So it's a whole onboarding process that is very different segment of the population. And I think that's something that is going to help in the long run. A lot of people have decent work, create an impact, sustain our heritage, because it's something that has to do with like history, craft, and for the whole MENA region. And we're very excited to have started this adventure.
That's amazing. Honestly, I love what you're doing. I love browsing the products on MyTindy. Everything is so beautiful. Everything is just, and also having visited Morocco a couple of times, I'm in love with the crafts and craftsmanship there. So it's awesome that not only are you bringing those products to customers, but you are helping those producers earn a sustainable livelihood by like exposing them to the rest of the world, by not just limiting them to their shop at the souk. Because I mean, yeah, foot traffic versus how much traffic you can have on an online website. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. Transformation, digitization is going to happen no matter what. It's better that it happens for them instead of resellers like just going and like sell, because that's what's happening right now. Like when you go on the internet and you type Moroccan craft, most of them are reseller who bought it for nothing and are reselling it very high.
Or people who are copycats, who are pretending to sell Moroccan goods, but actually they're not produced in Morocco. They haven't even touched uh, like hands of anyone from Morocco. They may have been produced in a different country. It's just the template of the, I don't know, the stitching or something like that, that looks Moroccan, but it has nothing to do with Morocco. So I love what you're doing in terms of really elevating these crafts people and providing them with a sustainable revenue. You've listed so many different types of ventures, so many different, paths that you have explored for yourself. And you've achieved so much. You've learned so much throughout this path. And you have told us about some of the mistakes that you have made along the way. In summary, what have been the biggest mistakes so far along this path? It's just, I feel like mistakes are way more powerful because they teach us much more than any success would, right? Because we have to learn how to pick ourselves up, how to overcome this issue, etc. So, what have been some of the biggest mistakes you've made along your journey, and what have you learned from them?
Yes, there has been many, honestly. I think the first one was being afraid, like being in the scarcity mindset, not being like, oh my God, can I spend this? Should I spend this? And not seeing like the bigger picture, the long term picture, being like what you're doing now is going to pay off. The second thing I think, and the most important, and it ties to it, is you have to put the customer first. And you have to really put it first, as in be the person who wants his best interests and not be the one who just want a quick buck. And that's something that is so important. That's something that I learned also the hard way. It's that a valuable customer for you is like, it's gonna be the best thing. Like it doesn't matter if you lose money on a transaction, like keep the customer happy and make him an ambassador. I think it's the most important thing. We're always looking for a new customer and not focusing on the one we already have, upselling them or finding ways to add value to them. Tony Robbins says you have to fall in love with your customer and not your business, and I think that's very powerful. Another thing I would say is money. I think that we have, like, I was a person who didn't have any idea of what money was coming in, what money was going out, because I found like I had a weird relationship with money in that sense. And I simply decided that I needed to get crystal clear. Like I need to know like how much money I'm making, how much money I'm spending in the business, everything. Because I swear, like even though like you don't want to deal with money, you're looking for money. You can't not want to deal with money and ask for money. Like it doesn't make sense when you think about it. So it's just being crystal clear about your finances. Like, can I spend? Can I not? Like, know where you are. Sometimes, like, I remember, like, I would be like, oh my God, that's bad. And then I would look at the number and it's not bad. So it's all in my head. And all the negative energy I brought into the business was just because I wasn't clear on the money that was like going in and going out. And I think that's something. And, I'm a Libra, so I tend to avoid conflict. And I think that's very bad because you have to have conflict. You have to have tough conversations. And the longer you delay them, the worse it's gonna get. I mean, like now I'm just like, it's so hard for me, but I'm really trying to have the tough conversations all the time whenever needed. Like, okay, it's not good, let's see what we can do. The most valuable thing I can have is clarity, and it goes
Mhm.
through conflict, it goes through knowing the numbers, it goes through like knowing exactly where you are and facing the reality you live in. And that's something that's very hard for me because I'm a dreamer. But that's something like, and she keep grounds me a lot because he's a Virgo, he's very down to earth. And so he's like, no, this is not going good, no, no, no. And at the beginning I was like, stop talking to me about bad things, I just want to hear about good things. And then I understood that like bad things happen, and if you don't deal with them, like they're never gonna leave on their own. Like it needs to go. And I think that's was the most important and valuable lessons I learned, is like facing things and not letting them take over or like run or like and it's a nightmare for your head. I mean, your mind is spinning. But if you solve it, if you actually have the conversation, do the thing, like rip the band-aid, it goes better. And that's something I'm still learning, but I'm actively doing.
It is very hard facing these things head on, especially when you do want things to just, work. You expect them to work, but then all of a sudden it's just, yeah. Honestly, I can relate to every single thing that you have mentioned. And yeah, I agree with you. It is very hard to resolve those problems. And it's much easier to avoid them, and ignore them. But like you said, they're never going to get resolved, and they're probably going to grow even bigger and bigger. And at the back of your head, you always feel like it's still there, like it's there, and it is weighing you down. But when you resolve it, it's like mountains have been taken off your shoulders. It might be a tiny thing. It might be like having to call your bank and do a certain thing, but it has lifted and you feel so free right now. And it's just, yeah, it's amazing. The moment you understand that you are in control of your life and you're in control of all of those things, is like the first day of your life. A lot of people are saying that, and I completely agree with that. And we are in control of that. We just need to face the difficult parts as well. Which brings me to my final question, which is, what are your goals for the future? And you've already listed some of the goals from MyTindy. What are your personal goals, and what approach do you use to set that vision and those goals?
I'm actively learning to set visions and goals. I'm gonna be like very honest. I've tried so many ways to set goals, but I'm trying to find something that makes them stick and to talk to my brain in a way that makes my brain excited. I think that like
Mhm.
I'm looking for this key, like like I will think about something and if certain phrasing will make me excited and I'll write it down and I'll be like, yes. So every time I want to talk about it to my brain and set goals, I need to talk about it with this reason and this way. Like it's self discovery. But I think the goals I have are tied to making an impact, as I said. So in my business, as a woman, as a founder, as hopefully soon a leader, talking in conferences about, I think that women empowerment is something that is very dear to my heart, and I'm yearning for the day where we won't have women awards. We will just have awards, and like everyone won't be like trying to positively put us on the front of the scene because there's a ceiling or something. So that's something that's very dear to my heart. And I think what I'm doing with my team also helps because I'm trying to level up the field for everyone. Like you're a woman, you're a man, like you can sell, you can buy, like it doesn't matter, like. And it's important to me. I feel that women are facing a lot of issues, and not saying that men aren't, because I know they are, and it has to do with like men are like they need, like we've stigmatized their emotion for so long, and I understand this, like. But everyone has to have their battles, and my battle is for women for now. Maybe one day I'll get men, but yeah, it's about like body positivity. Like I've seen so many women like put down because of their appearance. So many women put their thumbs down because of their appearance, and I'm thinking like, would a man feel less because he has a bit of weight on? Like no, he wouldn't. Like it doesn't define him as much, and that's something also that I'm trying to convey. And I've seen it. Like I've met like amazing women who are incredibly successful, and they're self-conscious about their weight in a way that, and I'm like, dude, you achieve so much, like just it's a little bit of like fat. Like that's nothing. It doesn't diminish the way you are and who you are and what you do. And I think it has to do with like the way we're raised and the way society has taught us like to feel that our worth is based on our image and everything. But my goal also is to make an impact in this scene because I feel that it's so important, and it's like if you don't feel good in what you are, you're not aligned, and if you're not aligned, you're never going to achieve as much as if you are. Maybe that's also a limiting belief. I don't know. And yeah, so my goals are like towards like building, like my wish is to build my Tindy to the whole MENA region, make it like super big. And personal, I said, is like be part of the movement of body positivity, inspire people humbly, like just like if I can inspire one person, I'm okay with it. Yeah, and build a great win-win like venture that's going to contribute to making the life of a lot of people like better. I think those are my goal. Be happy and learn to be more grateful. I think.
I can't wait to watch you do all of those and tick all of those boxes, create new to-do items for yourself and just, continue inspiring people and breaking stereotypes and just, breaking barriers, ceilings, all of that stuff because you're the one who is going to be able to do it. Like I can feel it. Like you're such a powerhouse, if that's the right word. But basically you have the power to do that. How can people follow your journey and learn more about your work and, witness you achieving all of those goals?
Well, thank you so much, Masha, first of all, for all you said. I think that you are also an incredible person. I've seen your work, and I believe that you're going to be breaking also a lot of stereotypes with your work. And I'm so happy that we were able to connect. People can reach me through my LinkedIn, Aida Kandil. I think I'll link it to you. You can also chat on the website at mytindy.com. Follow us on Instagram, mytindy, to be updated about everything that's happening. And I would love to connect with anyone who's listening to the podcast. Like, just come, say hi, and we'll have a chat. I'm very happy to connect.
Thank you so much. This was awesome, Aida. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, being vulnerable, and just for what you're doing with this world. Thank you for being so impact oriented and just changing hundreds and thousands of lives of people around the world.
And thank you so much, Masha, for having me. And I'm very happy to have been part of your podcast. And I look forward to what we can do together next.
Thank you so much, Aida, for sharing your experiences, being vulnerable with us, and for doing what you're doing, empowering all of those artisans in Morocco and in the MENA region. It's incredible. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Make sure to check out mytindy.com. I mean, the holiday season is coming and gifts are about to be exchanged. So, what a great excuse to support Moroccan artisans by buying their amazing products and giving them as gifts to your family and friends. And they will be so happy to see something so unique, so beautiful, and so that has a soul. All of the links will be in the description and also in the show notes at stereotypebreakers.com. So if you haven't checked it out yet, make sure you do. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your reviews, for your listens, for your shares. I really appreciate it. Subscribe to this podcast on the podcasting platform of your choice and also on YouTube. We are also on YouTube where you can watch us in video, nodding our heads and smiling away. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful time of the day you're currently experiencing. Bye.